Gavin Wood. I'm from England. My training is in economics. All my degrees are in economics. And in the early part of this new century, new millennium, I moved to Melbourne, where I now currently are based at RMIT University. And of course, I've now accepted a guest professorship here at Delft University, which I'm delighted to accept. I've got a reasonably broad range of research interests. The one that's taking up most of my time at the moment is homelessness. And I'm basing my research on a longitudinal survey. That's a panel study of roughly 2,000 people. And those 2,000 people are either actually homeless or vulnerable to homelessness. And they've been tracked for a period of 3 years and interviewed every 3 years. It's a unique database, and it enables us to track the journeys that those people have followed over that 3-year period, and allows us to identify the kind of factors that precipitate homelessness among those who are housed, but it also allows us to identify the kind of factors that facilitate escape from homelessness. Now, a second and very different area of interest of mine is housing finance and taxation. Governments around the world have extended tax concessions to homeowners in particular, but also investors in housing. The Dutch government, for example, offer favourable tax concessions to home buyers in the Netherlands. They're controversial because many argue that they fail to achieve any positive purpose. They lift house prices and rents and make housing more expensive. And the type of tax concessions and subsidies they deliver are unequally distributed.
Gavin is really helpful. He helped me a lot with my questions on housing market or some economic issues I like to discuss about with him. And later, once I have some draft papers, he's really helpful to help me review that or give me some useful advice or comments on that.
Third area of interest is home ownership, and in particular the relationship between housing and the global financial crisis. In the years leading up to the global financial crisis, welfare states around the world retreated, and increasingly homeowners relied upon their houses as a source of welfare. And in particular, they started to gear their houses. By that I mean they started increasing the level of debt that they had secured against their homes. Those rising debt levels exposed them to high levels of risk. And those high levels of risk were central to the global financial crisis. And moreover, many argue that it is responsible for the slow recovery in many parts of the world. From the point of view of sociologists and political scientists and so on, risk is being shifted from government to individuals. The welfare state is in retreat. People are looking to housing increasingly as a source of welfare. From the economist's perspective, debt contracts concentrate risk burdens on borrowers. So there's an unequal distribution of risk between borrowers and lenders. They're both arguing for a radical change in housing finance that might introduce more equity-like contracts between lenders and borrowers. Instead of the conventional debt contract in which the borrower bears all the risk, contracts between those who borrow and those who lend that involve more equal sharing of risk. The other area where I think reform is necessary and where I'm going to wind up is in relation to the tax system. But the question remains, is it too little and too late to prevent another kind of precipitous economic decline as we witnessed in the global financial crisis? Now, I've developed a close relationship with researchers from OTB, and OTB has an international reputation in the area of housing and urban studies. So we at RMIT University in Melbourne are really grateful for the opportunity to develop that relationship, and we expect it to be a fruitful one in future years. And during the course of my visit here at Delft, we've started 2 new initiatives. The first is a grant application jointly between myself and researchers here, which will be submitted to the Australian Housing and Urban Research Institute, and it will be around the subject of the reforms that OECD countries are introducing in relation to the taxation of housing. Secondly, I'm co-authoring a paper with OTB researchers which will be looking at the future prospects for home ownership in developed countries and the implications of what looks like a likely decline in home ownership in the future. And that paper will be presented at the forthcoming annual conference of the European Network of Researchers in Lisbon in late June.